From one of the creators of Dead Space comes the Callisto Protocol, a gorgeous but derivative knockoff. Dead Space is one of my favorite franchises in gaming, so I had high hopes after recent previews showed the game in a far different and better light than its original announcement trailer. This game had supposedly started as a battle royale set in the future of the PUBG universe, but that all changed. In 3 short years, it became a slow, melee-heavy action horror title. What did they nail and where did they miss? And is this worth the $70 asking price at launch? Let's find out in the XboxEra review of the Callisto Protocol. Set roughly 300 years in the future, you are Jacob Cole. Jacob is voiced and features the likeness of Josh Duhamel. And the first thing you'll see are the incredible photorealistic character models and cutscenes. This is a gorgeous game and pushes Unreal Engine 4 to its limits. I played through the game in the performance mode on my Series X with motion blur disabled. A patch one day after launch did fix a lot of the performance issues I had noticed early on and restored missing screen space reflections. The game is stunning at almost all times. As Jacob, you'll find yourself stuck in Black Iron Prison, located on Jupiter's moon of Callisto. Quickly, a deadly virus spreads through the facility, turning its inmates into monsters who evolve into bigger and more grotesque versions over time. Without spoiling much, the story feels like a really mediocre Dead Space knockoff in all the major ways. By the end, I found myself impressed with the voice acting and emotions on display through mocap, but the actual plot itself was bland, predictable, and let down what was otherwise a stellar production. Dialogue is well written for the most part. It is brought down by a reliance on cliché for the sci-fi horror genre and hurts what otherwise is stellar acting across the board. By the end, it somehow managed to take someone as talented as Sam Witwer and had me groaning every time his awful character showed up. There's nothing truly scary in this game. The environment is gorgeous, but it's boring and empty, showing signs of massive carnage, but never actually showing that as it happens. Your character deaths, though, are hilarious in their over-the-top goofiness, and the reliance on jump scares as the only means of being frightful wears itself out early on. Mission objectives are stupidly repetitive as well. Most areas find you see point A right at the beginning, the way out. You then walk to point B to repair point A, then slowly work your way back to point A as more monsters enter into the level. Those levels are tiny, but designed in a way to make them seem far bigger. The number of times you'll end up needing to find a fuse must rise into the dozens throughout the 10 or so hours it'll take to beat the title. It just becomes really predictable and boring quickly, and most of the shortcuts just lead you back to where you started after you collect a few items or data logs, and those data logs require you to sit in the inventory screen to listen to them, which is never not infuriating. Another major area that was a letdown for me was the combat. Jacob is a pilot, but thanks to the video game logic, he's also a supremely capable fighter with a deep knowledge of firearms. Combat is built as a one-on-one dance. Melee attacks are crunchy, and both Jacob and his enemies can kill in only a few hits on the higher difficulties. My main issue is with how dodging works, especially when fighting multiple enemies. Combat is almost a turn-based, automated affair. If you try to attack an enemy with either your normal swing on the right trigger or your unlockable heavy attack on the right bumper, it will only stun lock them if they aren't already attacking. To avoid enemy attacks, you must either dodge or block. Dodging is preferred, as blocking by holding back causes you to take chip damage, but it does offer up the chance for counterattacks if you unlock that upgrade. To dodge, you hold a direction, either left or right, and then you quickly swap to the opposite side as the enemies take multiple swings at you. Once their combo is over, you can either attack with your own combo, which will stun lock them most of the time, or just start shooting them. At certain points during a combo, a blue reticle will appear on an enemy, allowing you to quickly hold the left trigger and then shoot them with the right trigger for high damage. For the first half or so of the game, you only have your hand cannon pistol. By the end though, I did have 5 guns and each felt different, though the shotgun variants were by far the most powerful. Ammo is scarce, so you'll need to upgrade your melee weapon often and learn to be extremely patient. If you mess up a few times, even against the weakest of enemies, you'll either be very low health or just straight up dead on normal difficulty. The worst part of this system is how bad it is if you're surrounded by enemies. The camera is just too close, and you get zero visual clue when enemies are behind you. Your only defense in these situations ends up being the grip system, which is a gravity glove style device that is extremely weak before you upgrade it. Once upgraded though, it does allow you by far the easiest path through the game, as you can pick up enemies and fling them into environmental hazards for instant kills, and the enemy AI will never react to it if you're still in stealth mode. Unfortunately, there are larger enemies and boss types that this does not work on, and the two-head enemy type is one of the more frustrating encounters I've had in gaming in a long time. I've talked a lot about upgrades. It is a basic system that works on an in-game currency found in enemy drops, which you get by stomping on their body with the Y button, Dead Space style, or through selling valuable items you pick up in the environment. The currency is, and I find it hilariously, called Callisto credits. I don't know why it makes me laugh so hard, but the 3D printers that dot the levels requiring this dead moon-only currency in the middle of a breakout cracked me up. There's a lot of video game suspension of disbelief required here, and it's paired with an unbelievably serious and dour story. Once you have upgraded items like your gravity glove and acquired the suit shown in all the promotional material, the game's combat goes from being pretty bad to almost okay. Your inventory size will double, and you will take noticeably less damage per hit, but this doesn't happen until halfway through the story. Exploration is encouraged, as you will find a lot of currency and healing items. Those healing items are either an instant pickup or an injector that is tied to a frustratingly long animation. Every health injector, ammo stack, and valuable item takes up one inventory slot, and outside of ammo, nothing can stack, much like Dead Space. On my first day of playing the game at launch, it was a bug-ridden mess. Enemies would teleport in and out of existence, it ran horribly in quality mode, and crashed on me multiple times. Day 2 did see a massive patch that led to a much smoother experience. Not only did quality mode seem better, but performance mode felt far closer to 60 frames per second and seemingly had better reflection quality in puddles and glass. I still did have a lot of clipping and animations, especially my death ones. Hilariously, a monster would step into my body, and as he was about to rip my arm off, teleport 10 feet away, and then my arm would pop off seemingly of its own accord as my character quickly bled to death. It is always impressive to see a game so quickly be patched, but it makes you question why that had to happen in the first place. Publisher Krafton bet big on the franchise, but I don't see how 3 years is really enough anymore in the AAA gaming space. The Callisto protocol is $70 at launch, and I don't recommend it at that price. The story's too derivative, a series that's just about to get a good-looking remake in Dead Space, and the combat only really becomes tolerable at the easiest settings with multiple assists turned on. And speaking of set assists, you can have the game auto-dodge for you. You still need to hold in a direction, but you don't need to rotate sides, as well as removing things like requiring multiple button presses for QuickTime events. You can even have it auto-complete those QuickTime events and put things into various color blindness and hard-of-sight modes, like a full high-contrast one that makes it easy to know what is happening at all times. It is always good to see these types of accessibility options in a game, though even on easy difficulty, the game is anything but. In conclusion, the Callisto protocol is a gorgeous mess. I cannot recommend it at the full price, because the combat is miserable and the story is simply not interesting. If you are a fan of survival horror, it lets you down by not being scary either, instead relying on jump scares the entire time. It is highly competent technically though, and I hope the team at Striking Distance gets more time for their next title, which, very well, could be a sequel to this one.